Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good today. And like the title of the video said, today I want to share with you what I think the three biggest or the three top megabass lures are that the pros really try to keep away from the public. And you might ask, well, you're a pro, Randy, why you why are you sharing this information with everybody? And I'm sort of like in the period of my fishing career right now where it's a little bit of a transition. I'm working full-time in between the tournaments with Johnny Schultz and his Fish the Moment YouTube channel, which is a teaching channel. It's arguably the top teaching channel out there on YouTube today. If you haven't had a chance to go check it out, Fish the Moment, and just compare for yourself. We get these comments all the time talking about how incredible of a teaching environment this is with Johnny started this several years ago, and invited me on to partner with him earlier this year. And ever since I've been doing that, I find it very attractive to start sharing some of the things I've learned about fishing, some of the just everything I've learned about fishing with the public out there. There's such a demand for it, and there's such a knowledge for it that I've been doing this. I've been fishing professionally, for over 35 years, and it's really satisfying to me to be able to give something back instead of trying to just keep all for myself to use in tournaments, because, in the bigger picture, that's not what it's about. And another thing I found out in tournament fishing is there's very few secrets, if any. Some of the things I'm going to show you today, you may or may not have heard about it. They're secrets to a lot of people, but the days of like having stuff to yourself in the advent of social media, YouTube, and that type of stuff, it just doesn't exist anymore because it's going to get out there. So what I want to do today is I want to show you the three top lures that Megabass has, in my opinion, that are kept from the public. And to preface this a little bit, I've been on the Megabass Pro staff since 1992, a long time. So I started with the company back when they just had a handful of lures. They just had some really odd looking crankbaits, and they didn't really have much. And I've seen the progression of the product line to where it is today, where it's arguably, one of the most, it's one of the top, tackle companies in the world. Attention to details unmatched, quality components, everything. If you've used Megabass, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, here's the three that I want to go over with you. These are baits that the professionals that fish them do not talk about these much, simply because under certain situations they are so incredibly effective. When you get the right mix of things coming together, these three baits I'm talking about right here are just unbelievable. The first one I want to talk about is the one you guys have seen a lot, and you may think this is a Vision 110, but it's not. This is the Vision 110, the Silent 110. And Megabass had a jerkbait similar to this called the Silent Riser for several years, and it really didn't catch on that much, and just came out with a new improved Silent 110 version a couple years ago. This is the bait that that I was pushing Megabass to make for years and years, because in my opinion, I like a silent jerkbait. And the traditional 110 and a lot of jerkbaits out there, they have the moving balancer systems in them. So it's not like it's a loud rattle, but you have the noise that's created by the balancers moving back and forth. And in the silent 110s, you have the balancer is affixed in here, so it doesn't move, so it makes it quiet. And what this does is a silent jerkbait, to me, it's a lot better tool to catch bass with, simply because the bass can't really, they can't get conditioned to a sound. It's more, everything becomes more of a sight bait, more of a sight strike at that point. And we've all seen it before in jerkbait fishing, where you'll have, in clear water, you'll have fish follow your jerkbait. A lot of times you'll catch one and they'll be hooked just with the back hook. And that's why I use this Silent 110 more than any other model that Megabass makes, simply because it's quiet, and in areas that you have heavy fishing pressure, which is almost everywhere now, heavy fishing pressure, not much wind, clear water, the silent model will get you a lot more strikes. And it's something, like I said, people get conditioned into certain things and they just don't really want to try. They'll buy a Vision 110 and they'll get 2 or 3 colors they're confident in, and they overlook all the different styles and profiles Megabass has on their jerk baits. But the Silent 110, I'm promising you right here, this is one that I have not talked about, but it's one that I use all the time. I'm not all the time, but I use it most of the time when I'm fishing the 110 profile of jerk baits. I'm using the Silent model. The second one is the S-Crank 1.5. Now, there's more square bills out there than you can count. Every single company makes one. I've been fishing square bills for over 40 years. I've seen the transition from the balsa, handmade balsa stuff, to people custom building them, and then you had the bigger tackle companies start manufacturing them. So there's tons of them out there, and it's like, what makes one square bill better than others? And you hear a lot of people talk about a square bill swinging side to side, and that's sort of that's like an overused cliche. You hear them all the talk about I want a square bill that hunts center and side to side and hunts center. That is one of the most overlooked, hyped up aspects of square bill fishing that there is. The difference what you have here between like a plastic square bill like the S-Crank or like a balsa, most traditional balsa crankbaits, they have a pretty hard wide wobble on them and a real consistent wobble. Some of the ones, the custom ones, had that deal where they swung out side to side more and fought back to the center, and they all caught fish. But what makes the S-Crank a big secret for a lot of the pros right now is that this bait right here, this was one of the few baits that we had extensive prototype testing on this particular bait to get everything right. And when you have a combination of the right profile, length, size, everything like that, weight distribution, and wobble, that's when you get a key bite. Now the S-Crank is a little bit different than what you think a traditional square bill would be. The S-Crank has a lot tighter wobble than most square bills, and when you look at this bait and you look at the lip on it like that, you'd think it has a pretty hard traditional wobble like most square bills, but this bait has a pretty tight wobble on it. And given the fact that it has a tight wobble, it also has a lot tighter swing radius on it. And you don't know when you're designing a bait, and when you're in the business of testing prototypes, you don't know what is really going to work just by looking at it, because you can look at a bait and you can look at its color and its profile and you can see how it wiggles through the water and you can say, hey, that bait looks really good. But until you actually fish it and you actually see how the fish react to it, you don't know. And the first time that I threw this final prototype of the there's 3 models. There's the 1.2, the 1.5, and the 2.0. This is the 1.5, the middle one, which if you've watched a lot of the Fish the Moment YouTube videos the last couple weeks, you've seen me catch the fire out of them on this bait the last couple weeks. But in this particular one, like I said, when I first saw it in the water, I wasn't impressed. I said, man, that thing just doesn't wobble very good. I mean, it just doesn't wobble much. It looks pretty dead in the water. But when I started fishing it and I took it out there and started using it on the same type of places I was square bill fishing, I caught twice as many bass on this particular bait as I did with my traditional square bills that really had that great wobble on it. And to this day, I can't really figure out what it is, because the wobble on this bait does not look that great, but there's something about it. Whatever it does, it triggers the bites. And there's a lot of pros out there that are using the Megabass S-Crank square bill and not talking about it. I can promise you that. Okay, the last one that a lot of guys are using and nobody's talking about is the big Megabass 262 swim bait. And to give you a size comparison, here's the Megabass 110 Silent above it, so you can see how massive of a bait this is. This is a 6-ounce bait. It weighs a ton, and you have to have a swim bait rod to throw it. You can throw it on a flipping stick, and your flipping stick, it feels like it's going to break in half when you throw it. So you got to throw this bait on a heavy rod, 25-pound test fluorocarbon. This particular bait is a big fish catching bait. You're not going to get a lot of bites on it, but there are so many pros using this bait when they want a kicker. 2 years ago, Oliver and I won the Big Bass Bash at Lake of the Ozarks on this particular bait. Threw it for 2 days in the tournament. Had just 3 or 4 bites over the course of 2 days, but he had one almost 7 pounds, and he won $100,000 on it at Lake of the Ozarks. This is a bait that a lot of pros are starting to use right now. It's something that you have to make a commitment to. When you're throwing the 262, it's something you can't just pick it up and throw it for an hour and expect to give it a try. This is a bait that you have to put in your hand and not take it out all day long. You have to cast two-handed with it. I work it like a jerk bait. A lot of people, they throw they just reel them in and it just goes side to side like that. But I'll use it like a jerk bait where it'll dart side like that and dart hard like that, and just fish it just like I would a jerk bait. And the best conditions for this, like I said, there's 2 different scenarios that this bait will work good. It works good in the late pre-spawn, and it works good in the early to mid-fall, like we're coming up right now. Anytime you got water visibilities of 2 foot to 4 foot, this thing is going to attract the biggest bass that are in that area. But I can promise you, this is another one that doesn't get fished by many people, but there's pros using it, and they really don't want you talking about it. But it's got its own magic within itself here. It's a different type of fishing though. If you throw this thing all day long, you've been fishing, because it takes a lot of effort to throw it. But anyway, that's the 3 right there. I can promise you right there, there's 3 baits that I just showed you right there that a lot of fishermen do not want you to hear about. They're highly productive under certain situations, and that's the whole key. It's like anything else. Bass fishing is about using the right bait, right technique under the right situations. And you have the more advanced and the more experienced you get as an angler, the more you will know when to make the adjustments to certain baits under certain set of conditions. And that's just a matter of just capitalizing on the opportunities that you get that come up every single day on the water. But anyway, just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to be doing probably a lot more of this type of sort of bait type tips moving forward over the next year. And appreciate you all tuning in and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button at the top right of the screen here, and we'll see you later with another video. See you.